Okay.
Hello, and welcome to the final video in Equanimity, Finding Equanimity, or the Path to Holy Calm in Chaotic Times. I'm here with Lynn Jericho. And Lynn,
Hi, Jane.
it's really nice to see you.
Yeah.
We decided to do this fourth video to answer some of the questions that have come up and have come up also in me. As I looked at the material for the 6-week workshop that you're now going to be offering on equanimity and practicing the process of equanimity, I found myself looking through that and thinking, wow, there's so many words, so much there. It looks so rich and exciting and
Yeah.
really complex. And when I matched that with one of the comments, deep work is hard, I thought, yeah, deep work can be hard. It's also, no, having done this myself, I didn't have this roadmap to it, but having worked on it myself, I know that while deep work is hard, it's also so liberating that the work really pays off big time over a lot of different areas of our life when we penetrate these archetypes deeply. But I'm wondering if you can talk about that, the complexity of the syllabus that you've put forward.
Oh, well, human beings are complex, and there's no end to our complexity. And that's what's so exciting. I mean, we never stop growing. We never stop having challenges that make us stronger. And I think that's so important. So what I've done in creating the Equanimity Workshop, and I love the simplicity of that name, we are going to be demonstrating and applying and practicing equanimity in 6 different areas of our life. And probably the hardest one will be the first session will be on introducing ourselves and sharing our history with equanimity and the absence of equanimity. And all of us have a difficult time introducing ourselves. But it's the beginning of community. And so each one of us, no matter whether there are 10 people in the workshop or 50 people in the workshop, we each bring our own dynamic, and dynamic is the operative word, complexity, our own dynamic complexity. And you multiply that by 50, and what happens is you start forming this community that is more than the sum of the individuals. It's when I talked about the 8 steps of equanimity. Holy calm is more than the achievement of those 8 steps. It's something more. And so in the course, we take all the individuals that are participating, and then we take the archetypes of being human. So all the archetypes that I am basing the workshop on live in every one of us, but each one of us has our own unique expression of the archetypes. And the archetypes are the language of the gods. It's what they named us, what they named the human being, and filled the human being with all these archetypes. And working with them, working archetypally makes our individuality, it's like greasing the slide, it's archetypes are banana peel. Once you have them, you just slip into things so easily. When people say, Lynn, how do you do it all? It's because I understand the language of archetypes and where they fall and how they fit and how to apply them. And so the course, the Equanimity Workshop, is going to give everybody in their own individual complexity a bunch of banana peels. And we're going to cheer each other on as we work through this.
Well, and what I find so helpful, one of the things I find helpful about workshops with other people is that there are variations in the expression, so that if we're working in, like, for example, you have equanimity in the consciousness of space. So in the physical,
Right. Yeah.
We have, if we have these variations in expression, and I'm meeting other people that have this slight nuance, it helps me in my understanding of other archetypal questions that I have. I hadn't thought about that. That's related to something in my physical or my etheric, or how,
Well,
in
it's the spaciousness within our soul, not just, I mean, so yes, there's the what we experience in physical space, but how much spaciousness exists in your soul? How are you concerned about the appearance of your thoughts or your feelings? Or how do you maintain boundaries and territories in your sense of self? Whether it's, yes, I look around. I mean, it was very interesting for me lying in bed one morning, waking up with all these thoughts of equanimity and looking at my bedroom and saying, does this space and the way I've ordered it or failed to order it help me feel equanimity? And then I looked and I said, well, I've got all these clothes piled up on this love seat and it's chaos. And, do I let that love seat and all the clothes on it run my life? Or do I have this capacity for equanimity to rise above it? And that's so important. That's why we practice equanimity. One, I can choose to keep that love seat cleared so that I look at it and it's beautiful and it's ordered and, it's perfect. No human being has touched this love seat, not one article of clothing. But for me to be able to look at this chaos, go into judgment about what a slob I am, and yet then let that all go, stop judging, and really have an inner equanimity around space. If I clutter up my thoughts, if there's this love seat in my soul that I just throw thoughts on, I don't have any order in my consciousness. And so that's part of where we'll go in the workshop, is sorting through what's outside of us and looking at what's inside of us and living in metaphors and living in the archetypes so that we can understand ourselves. It's like light bulbs going off, little epiphanies all the time. If I say, where are you in feeling safe in this kind of relationship or that kind of relationship or with this kind of question? Safety is an archetype we all feel. The lack of safety is going to throw us into chaos. Equanimity helps us to step out of the chaos enough to define what makes us safe. And then we can, with equanimity, achieve that safety or ask for support in being safe. Is that coming together?
Yeah, it's coming together in both my experience of this, having done this a few times, and also in your words. It is clear. I noticed one of the comments that somebody made was the importance, the person was asking, what about the importance of abiding or wandering in deep despair and impotence? And sometimes it's the only way. And I was thinking about that, how true that is, how true it is that we abide in a state of despair. And I remember actually what brought me to you was some very deep despair that I was in. and I wanted accompaniment with my deep despair. And that's archetypally, when we allow ourselves to be in deep despair, our heart broken open, and we just allow ourselves to be in the abyss of despair, we as long as it doesn't turn into our narrative of despair and we stay there, that something then emerges out of that and we're able to move beyond that. But I'm wondering, do you have anything to say about that particular?
Well, about looking at despair, every great, I mean, the Buddha went out and experienced extreme despair and then found this equanimity, which has served many of us. You have Christ in the wilderness after the baptism. You have Christ at Gethsemane before the crucifixion. You want to experience the sweating of blood and utter despair, and then finding the equanimity to surrender to his destiny. You look at St. Francis, you look at the despair of Martin Luther King Jr. and the hope of having a dream. Without equanimity in the face of all that he was up against, he could have not had that dream. Despair, if we ground it, if we go in, there's a really important statement by the writer Joseph Conrad in his novel Lord Jim, where he speaks about in the destructive element immerse. And then let the element sustain you instead of trying to desperately get away from it. So and Alcoholics Anonymous, you got to hit your bottom. So one of the gifts of practicing equanimity is you seek your bottom, even when it's painful. I mean, your bottom is usually pretty damn painful. And again, Steiner saying wisdom is crystallized suffering. Freedom is hitting the bottom and using it as a springboard for freedom.
Yeah, it reminds me of a picture I have. As you were speaking, I was thinking about a river up one of the headwaters of Lake Superior, and it's a fast moving river, and just this image of hanging on to the branches on the side, and you're trying to make your way up the river, and you're just struggling to not give way and surrender to the flow of the river. And what is it like when you just surrender to the despair? You don't know where it's going to lead, which is partly why there's so much suffering. You have no idea. You're letting yourself go into the unknowing of it, and trusting that life, whatever has been presented to you in your own ecosystem, is that it's going to lead to a resurrection or to hope of just, it's going to lead to something that is going
to fulfillment of your destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the transformation of your inner life. And it's not magical. It takes deep inner work. And it takes this guidance, which you find working with the archetypes. So in terms of all the content in all the exercises that will come in the Equanimity Workshop, it's not that you have to compare or measure or complete. It's just that you have to engage. You have to show up. And that's wonderful.
Well, it reminds me of something that you've written about the intellectual understanding, sort of the instinct, the impulse, the desire, this intellectual understanding that we can have of this process. also, versus the actual entering into it and, and meeting ourselves. It is a little bit like letting go of the branch on the river and climbing ourselves up to this intellectual understanding versus letting ourselves experience it and integrate both the intellect and the actual experience of it.
Yeah.
This is where the real evolution happens, when we move beyond the intellectual understanding. And I'm not denigrating that, but really, until we've embodied it and it becomes useful to our ecosystem, and we, then we actually have the capacity that we've talked about in the other videos, where it's ours. It belongs to our selfhood, and we've inhabited it so that we can use it.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about this instinct, impulse, desire?
Well, it's really very important. And again, I have to thank Rudolf Steiner. He mentions levels of will. All right. So there's instinct, which you don't need to will instinct. It's just there. And a lot of what we have is an instinct to survive, an instinct to remain the same. Or some of us have this incredible instinct to develop. So we're the ones who read all the books and take all the courses and listen to all the webinars and always needing more. But instinct doesn't integrate. All right. Impulse is something that's habitual, that you do over and over again. Pulse has a rhythm to it and a habit. So there's no real freedom with an impulse either, but it's something you've developed over time. So a lot of people doing yoga every morning, meditating, saying certain prayers or whatever, it's become an impulse. And it's how do we keep it alive is the big question with our impulses. Then desire is at a higher level. It's far more conscious, but it's about satisfying a story. It's really about satisfying a story, where motive is this higher gesture of real inner development. Motive is what will get you to holy calm. And part of the work of the Equanimity Workshop is to notice where we're being instinctual, where we're being impulsive, where we're being filled with desire, and where we're living with a humble motive. Because there is a humility in motive. It's not grandiose. And that's a big part of it. And that's why we're going to be working on this in community, because community supports your freedom. This kind of community. This community is not about tribal consciousness. This is a community that supports individuality and celebrates individuality. And so that's what I want. I want this group of people coming together in this workshop that are willing to be supported in their individuality and willing to support others in their individuality.
Lynn, can you talk a little bit more about the one of the constructs you've talked about? I think it might help people really connect with what's going to be helpful in this practice of and workshop of maps, mirrors, and methods.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what archetypes are. So when I started developing courses in the Imagined Self Academy, I realized in every course I had to provide maps about what is the universal human being. Where do I find myself in this particular map? And there are lots of maps, there are lots of archetypes. So where do I find myself? And then any path of inner development requires loads of reflection. So we need mirrors. And the same archetypes that provide us with maps also provide us with mirrors. We get to look through the lens of the archetype and see our true nature and how we're evolving. So having mirrors to reflect is enormously important. And that's what archetypes give us. And then we have methods. We all need ways in which to develop, and procedures and questions and, all kinds of exercises, workshops. And those have to be based also on the archetypes. So it all fits together. So finding yourself, knowing yourself in the mirrors, and becoming yourself through the methods, evolving, becoming free. So yes, in the workshop, we'll be emphasizing the maps, the mirrors. We'll be working with them in each exercise. So maps, mirrors, and methods. And once you understand that, again, it becomes graceful and elegant. It's not awkward anymore. It's not, you don't feel inhibited. You stop resisting and start surrendering. And
Yeah,
it's great.
A big part of surrendering is letting go of, for me, it's been, at least, and I can see this would be true for a lot of people, is perfecting or pleasing. I mean, in a workshop like this, I think it's really important to note that on this kind of evolution and on this path to holy calm, the shoulds, the oughts, all of those things,
The ideals, yes.
the ideals, the identities, we can drop that. I mean, in a sense, as much as we're able. And the more we build capacity to live in the area where we're beyond the pleasing, having the perfect response. I mean, writing the perfect comment in the chat box. And I often, sometimes when I've taken your courses, I'm just besieged with wanting to write the perfect thing that's going to help other people, or that's going to be actually in integrity with me. And when I remind myself, I don't need to perfect this response, and I don't need to
prove anything
or prove, that it's where there's a lot more power. And I notice there's a sort of quantum evolution when I can let that go and show up. I'm thinking that this is an important aspect to bring up for some people, because it's going to be, especially for the person that said deep work is hard. And I mean, it is hard. And it's made harder by our perfecting, pleasing, and proving, actually.
Yes, absolutely. And pretending. We don't need any of that. That's not part of the Imagine Self Academy. There's nothing to prove. There's nothing to perfect. I mean, as I said in the beginning of our conversation, there's no end to our complexities. There's no end to our becoming. Again, another Goethe quote is "Die and become."
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful. Let go of that branch. Let the river take you where it's going to take you. It's the river of your life. And so I want people to show up who are committed to doing the work, but not holding any assumptions or judgments or expectations. I promise that everyone, you will be different. You will transform through this work, but it's going to be a delicious surprise and a wonderful community, to make the connections where we're all so vulnerable. And believe me, I'm going to be just as vulnerable as everybody there. It's, it's integrity, it's authentic, and it's courageous. So come and join us. be part of this.
Yeah, I agree. And as you were just talking there, just my heart, it felt like very full. I feel very full. With possibility. I see where you have so much reverence
Yeah.
for each human being in front of you, because not only are we really complex, we try so hard to avoid the fullness of who we are, in a sense. And to me, this path to equanimity is the path to selfhood. It also could be called that, because it really is the path to us inhabiting our selfhood with consciousness. And I'm so excited about this
I'm
course
excited
about the
too.
next 6 weeks.
And
Mhm.
um, if this helps people have more equanimity around signing up, am offering a 2-week window for a full refund of their money. So yeah, any questions? I mean, we're going to be opening registration, and the first class is going to start on Wednesday, October 14th. So you'll need to sign up before then. On every Wednesday, you'll get rich content for insight and questioning yourself and doing some journaling or whatever you want to do to work with the content. And then Sundays, there's going to be a live Zoom call for 90 minutes. And that's where we really get to play together. And we'll see. I mean, I'm always terrified when I launch a course, and I'm terrified when I send out an email, but so I'm not terrified about the terror anymore. So I push send and I see what happens. Yeah.
You know, Lynn, I have to tell you, several of my friends have said, I can't believe how much Lynn gives away for free. We get these blogs. You've had so many beautiful blog writings that and I mean, I know from working with you how much I know they're downloads, but I also know it takes a tremendous amount of your energy to edit them, to rewrite so that people can understand and enter in. And to do a course like this, the amount of thought and preparation and just so much value that has gone into not only what you've already given to people in these introductory videos, but what's to come. And can you say anything about that relationship of where you find yourself in terms of free content versus these courses? You offer many courses. I've done several of them, and there's such a good value for what's packed in them. There's so much value compared to, I do a lot of classes, so I feel like I'm qualified to say this. There's a lot of value in what you offer.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's my gift to give, and to hold it back is awful. So the free gift is so important, and I do need to pay my rent, and buy clothes and what have you, and buy technology, buy my new MacBook Air. So I mean, I would give it all away for free if I could, but it's also very important for people to value, to make an investment in who they are and where they want to go. So I will always be giving away material for free, and I will always be charging I charge for my time with my private clients and in my courses, just because and Inner Christmas I charge. I used to give Inner Christmas away for free, and then I said, no, I can't do that anymore. So the financial picture, the money picture is always challenging. I mean, the shamans used to be part of a tribe, and the tribe supported the shaman. Mm-hmm. The tribe prepared shelter for the shaman, cooked food for the shaman, and the shaman was there to speak to them, to heal them, whatever. But we don't have tribes that way anymore. So, yeah, I'm going to keep giving away a lot for free, and I'm going to charge for other things.
I am really excited about this class. Thank you for this. Thank you for talking to me on these videos. And I look forward to any of you that are thinking of signing up for this course. If you have any questions, or, you know, you're just a little bit on the fence and wondering what it's like, I think, Lynn, you would probably welcome those.
I'm
And
totally available. Anyone who has a question. And on next Sunday, on October 11th, I'm doing an open Q&A for anybody at the last minute who has questions that need to be answered.
okay, you know, I also would like to say, if anyone has any questions about, want to talk to somebody's experience of working with Lynn, I hope it's okay that I would love to offer my email, because if somebody does want to talk about that, I am very willing to say what it's like from a firsthand perspective, what this work is like. When we talk about how much, you know, hard work it is, I think I have a perspective on that, which hopefully I've shared. But if you have more questions about that, how much time it's going to take and what it's going to take, I'm also happy to engage in that conversation too, especially this week, partly because I really want you to come, because I think the more people that are here in our conversation, I think the more rich it is for all of us, especially when we're untangling archetypal questions. The more the merrier when it comes to that.
That'd be great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lynn.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Jane. Bye-bye.
My
Love
pleasure.
to everybody.
Yeah, thanks.